Have you ever helped someone, financially, emotionally, even spiritually, only to watch them turn their back on you the moment things got better for them? You gave from a place of love, of loyalty, of good faith. But instead of receiving gratitude, you were left with exhaustion. Instead of building trust, you were handed betrayal. And worst of all, instead of attracting good fortune, your life slowly started to unravel. Your energy drained, your finances strained, your peace chipped away piece by piece. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And you're not wrong for feeling used. Because here's the hard truth: not everyone deserves your help. Not every person who struggles wants to grow. Some people feed on kindness like it's an endless supply, and they will keep taking until there's nothing left of you but resentment and regret. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially when you've built your life around compassion. But protecting your light doesn't make you selfish. It makes you wise. There are certain types of people who carry an energy so draining, so chaotic, that helping them is not an act of virtue. It's an open invitation for misfortune to enter your life. And no, this isn't just metaphorical. It shows up in your bank account, your relationships, your health, your sleep. It shows up in the heaviness you can't explain, in the way doors stop opening for you, in how lucky breaks seem to slip away the moment they arrive. Today, we're going to name them. The 10 types of people you must stop helping before they quietly destroy your luck, your joy, and your future. You're not being cruel. You're finally choosing clarity over chaos. And that choice, that's the beginning of real peace. Number 1, the blamers. Every door is broken, but never theirs. We all know someone who never takes responsibility for anything. When they lose a job, it's their boss's fault. When a relationship ends, it's because their partner didn't try hard enough. When plans fail, they blame the economy, their childhood, the government, or even God. And if you try to help, sooner or later, you'll end up on their list of people to blame too. Blamers are masters of shifting accountability. Every setback in their life is someone else's doing. They'll talk for hours about how unfair the world is, but never once look in the mirror. They don't reflect, they deflect. And if you're not careful, they'll use your empathy as a dumping ground for their bitterness. Helping a blamer feels noble at first. You think you're being supportive, offering encouragement, maybe even a second chance. But over time, their energy becomes suffocating. You start absorbing their narrative. You feel drained after every conversation. Their complaints stick to you like smoke from a burning house. And if you stay around long enough, you'll notice a shift in yourself. Less optimism, less drive, more excuses. That's how their mindset spreads. Quietly, slowly, like a fog that dulls your clarity. Blamers don't want solutions. They want sympathy, and they'll twist your support into validation for their own stagnation. You can offer advice, give money, open doors, but none of it will be enough, because nothing is ever enough for someone who refuses to change. And the most painful part, when they fall again, and they will, they'll say you didn't do enough. The truth is, people who never take ownership for their lives cannot be helped, not in any real, lasting way. Change requires humility. Growth requires responsibility. Without those, even the best intentions fall flat. You're not helping them rise. You're just cushioning their fall and extending the cycle. Protect your energy. You are not a trash can for someone else's blame. You are not their emotional assistant. And you are not responsible for fixing what they refuse to face. If every door in their life is broken, but they never once check the hinges they themselves installed, it's time for you to stop knocking. Let them sit in their echo chamber. Let them hear the sound of their own blame bounce off the walls. Maybe then they'll look inward, maybe not. But either way, it won't be your burden anymore. Stepping away from a blamer isn't heartless. It's the most powerful form of clarity you can choose. Number 2, the self-pity experts, tears that were never meant for you. There's a certain kind of person who wears sadness like a mask, and they wear it well. They talk about how life has always been unfair to them, how no one understands what they've been through, how they've been mistreated, overlooked, abandoned. And when you hear their story, your heart aches a little. You want to help. You feel guilty for having what they don't, so you step in. You offer your time, your money, your emotional bandwidth. You rearrange your schedule. You lose sleep. You pour from your cup hoping to fill theirs, but the more you give, the emptier you become, because these people don't want to rise. They want to be rescued over and over again. Self-pity experts are not truly broken. They're skilled. They've learned how to weaponize vulnerability. They use stories of pain to pull people in, not to heal, but to stay stuck. And they know exactly what to say to trigger your compassion. You're the only one who gets me. You're the only one who's ever really helped. These words aren't gratitude, they're glue. They bind you to their suffering so that walking away feels cruel. But the reality is, they don't change. They recycle the same sadness over and over again, like reruns of a show that never ends. And if you ever reach a point where you're drained, emotionally, financially, even spiritually, and decide to step back, you'll suddenly become the villain in their story too. Helping someone in pain is a beautiful thing. But when that pain becomes their identity and they refuse to grow, it's no longer help. It's enablement, and it comes at a cost: your own peace, your own energy, your own life. The hardest truth to accept is this: not everyone crying wants to get better. Some just want company in their misery. And you were never supposed to be a permanent cast member in someone else's tragedy. The people who truly want to heal don't trap others in their wounds. They listen, they try, they rise. The others, those who use sorrow to control, will only ever drain you. Step back. Not because you lack compassion, but because you've given all you can and they've mistaken your care for an invitation to stay broken. You're allowed to love people from a distance. You're allowed to say, "I see your pain, but I can't carry it for you anymore." That's not selfish. That's clarity. The next time someone tells you their life story through tears, ask yourself, are these tears a turning point or a trap? Because not all cries for help are cries for healing, and not all wounded people want to be whole. Number 3, the sweet talkers who never show up, clocks that never tell time. They're the ones who always say the right thing. They promise, reassure, commit with words as smooth as silk. "Don't worry, I've got you. I'll take care of it. You can count on me." And for a while you believe them, you want to believe them, because the way they speak makes everything feel safe, solid, certain. But when the moment comes, when real action is needed, when things get hard, or when you're counting on them the most, they disappear. They go silent, they offer excuses, and you're left holding the weight they promised to carry. Sweet talkers are masters of comfort words. They know how to build hope out of thin air. They've perfected the art of saying yes when they mean maybe, and I'll help when they mean you're on your own. At first, you brush it off. You give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they were busy. Maybe next time. But next time turns into a pattern, and soon you realize their support only exists in theory, not in practice. The damage they cause isn't loud. It's slow, subtle, like a leak in the roof you don't notice until the whole ceiling caves in. You find yourself cleaning up after their broken promises, covering for their failures, or doing double the work because they said they'd be there, and weren't. And yet they'll keep smiling, keep charming, keep showing up just enough to maintain the illusion of dependability. The hardest part about dealing with sweet talkers is that they don't seem harmful. They're not mean, they're not aggressive, but their unreliability can quietly derail your life. And the longer you keep trusting them, the more disappointed and exhausted you become. You don't need people who only show up in words. You need people who show up in action, who follow through, who mean what they say. Trust isn't built on comfort, it's built on consistency. And if someone keeps promising but never delivering, it's not a fluke, it's who they are. Helping a sweet talker is like setting your watch to a clock that never tells the right time. You'll always be late for your own life, because you're waiting on someone who was never actually coming. So stop making space for empty promises. Stop planning around people who never show up. And most of all, stop confusing charm for character. The two are not the same. The people who truly care about you don't just talk about being there. They are, every time, without fanfare, without needing to be asked twice. That's how you know it's real. Number 4, the disrespectful to parents. Trees without roots always fall. If you want to know someone's true character, watch how they treat the people who raised them. You can tell a lot about a person not by how they talk in public, not by how they treat their boss or their friends, but by how they speak about their parents. If someone shows no gratitude, no respect, or worse, open resentment toward the very people who gave them life, it's a red flag you can't afford to ignore. People who are cold to their parents often carry that same coldness into every relationship. They may seem kind, generous, even loyal at first glance, but the deeper you go, the more you feel a lack of emotional grounding. Because if someone can turn their back on the ones who sacrificed the most for them, what makes you think they won't one day turn their back on you? Yes, not all parent-child relationships are easy. Yes, some are painful, even toxic. But basic decency, respect, and acknowledgement of someone's effort, especially when that effort shaped your life, is a baseline. If a person constantly complains about their family, mocks their upbringing, or expresses shame over where they came from, it says more about them than it does their parents. Helping someone who dishonors their roots is like planting a tree in sand. No matter how tall it grows, it won't stand when the storm hits. Because without roots, there's no stability, no foundation, and no sense of what it means to truly value connection. The danger isn't just emotional, it's karmic. A person who disrespects their parents often feels entitled. They expect loyalty without giving it. They demand support but refuse to acknowledge where they came from. And if they can cut off their own family without guilt, they will cut off anyone who no longer serves their purpose, including you. You don't need to judge people for their past, but you should observe how they carry it. Do they show appreciation, or do they rewrite history to serve their ego? Do they honor the ones who built them up, or pretend they did it all alone? Because a person who can't look back with humility can't move forward with grace. Their relationships will always be shallow, transactional, and temporary. And if you invest in someone like that, don't be surprised when they leave you the moment it's convenient. Kindness should not come with blindness. Pay attention. If someone dishonors the people who gave them life, they will never fully honor yours. Let your compassion have boundaries. Let your love have standards. And remember, a tree without roots might look fine for a while, but eventually it will fall. And everything leaning on it will fall too. Don't let that be you. Number 5. The takers, bottomless bags that devour your energy. You know the type. They always need something. Your time, your attention, your money, your energy. At first, you don't mind, you care, you want to be there. But slowly, you realize it's never a two-way street. They never ask how you're doing. They never show up unless there's something to gain. They don't give. They just take and take and take. Takers aren't always obvious. In fact, they often come wrapped in charm. They tell you you're so generous, so helpful, so special. They know how to make you feel needed. That's part of how they keep you close. Because if you ever stop giving, they'll make you feel guilty. They'll say you've changed, that you're cold, that you're selfish. But deep down, what they really mean is, you stopped serving me. Helping a taker is like trying to fill a bag with no bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it disappears. And worse, once you're empty, they move on. They don't thank you. They don't check in. They don't care that you're depleted. Because to them, your generosity was never a gift. It was a resource they believed they were entitled to. And if you think they'll be there when you need help, don't hold your breath. When life turns, when you're low, when you're vulnerable, they'll be nowhere. Or worse, they'll watch from a distance, silently blaming you for being too emotional or too dramatic. Because takers don't do empathy. They do opportunity. It's easy to confuse giving with loving. But real love includes balance. It includes boundaries. A relationship without mutual support isn't love, it's labor. And you are not here to work unpaid shifts in someone else's emotional warehouse. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve support. You deserve people who notice when you're tired and don't just ask for more. You're allowed to expect gratitude. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to stop pouring into someone who refuses to hold your kindness with care. So take a look around. Who always reaches out when they need something, but never when they do? Who only calls when there's a problem, not when there's joy to share? Who disappears when your life feels heavy? Because the answer to those questions will show you who's walking with you and who's riding in your back pocket. Stop giving to people who only know how to take, not because you're bitter, but because you finally understand your energy is sacred. It's not bottomless, it's not free, and it's not for those who treat your heart like a vending machine. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for walking away. You are simply done being drained. Number 6, the immoral, beautiful vines that crack your foundation. They're polished, polite, sometimes even admired. They might be successful, well-spoken, and carry an aura of confidence. But underneath the charm, there's something off, something you can't quite name at first. It's in the way they talk about winning at any cost, the way they justify cutting corners, the way they treat people as tools, not human beings. These are the immoral, the ones who trade their integrity for power, for money, for convenience. And if you're not careful, they'll pull you right into the same pit they've built their life around. The danger of immoral people is that they don't look dangerous. They don't yell, they don't threaten, they seduce, they flatter. They convince you they're just doing what it takes in a world that rewards the ruthless. And slowly you start adjusting your standards. You let things slide. You justify behavior that once would have made you uncomfortable. That's how it begins, the slow erosion of your own values. Helping an immoral person, giving them your trust, your time, your effort, doesn't just drain you, it compromises you. Because their chaos doesn't stay contained. Their choices bleed into yours. You may not lie, but you defend someone who does. You may not cheat, but you look the other way when they do. And eventually, people stop separating you from them. The foundation of your life, your peace, your name, your energy begins to crack, quietly, invisibly, like roots growing under concrete. One day, you wake up and realize your name is tangled in someone else's mess. Your integrity is stained by association, and all you were trying to do was be kind. But morality isn't about grand gestures, it's about small, consistent choices. And those who abandon their moral compass don't just lose their way, they break the compass of anyone who follows them too closely. You might think you're strong enough to stay grounded, but proximity has power. The more time you spend around someone who distorts right and wrong, the more distorted your own judgment becomes. You are not here to be someone's moral buffer. You are not here to polish their image or protect them from the consequences they've earned. If someone's success is built on deception, if their charm hides cruelty, if their gain comes from someone else's loss, they are not your project. They are a warning. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to expose them. You just need to leave, set distance, reclaim your clarity, because integrity is fragile, and once it cracks, it's hard to rebuild. So the next time someone impresses you with words, with ambition, with results, look closer. What's underneath? What's the cost? Because even the most beautiful vine can tear apart a home if its roots grow deep enough. Don't let someone else's ambition destroy your foundation. You've worked too hard to build it. Number 7, the two-faced warm hands that may hold a knife. They're the ones who smile in your face but twist the truth behind your back. They praise you in public, but whisper doubts to others in private. They offer help, affection, even loyalty, but something about it always feels just a little too perfect. That's because it is. Two-faced people are masters of the performance. They know how to read a room, charm a crowd, and win your trust with ease. But the trust they build isn't meant to be kept. It's meant to be used for leverage, for gossip, for control. At first, they seem like a dream friend. Supportive. Kind, present, they offer small favors, they ask thoughtful questions, they make you feel seen. But that warm presence comes with a quiet price, your guard. Because the moment you let it down, they start gathering information. Not to understand you, but to store it. For later. For the moment they need to shift a narrative, spin a story, or protect their own image at your expense. And when it happens, when you find out they've been talking about you, misrepresenting you, creating cracks in your reputation, it hits hard. Not just because of the betrayal, but because of how believable they make it all seem. They don't shout, they don't confront, they plant subtle doubts. They start sentences with, "I probably shouldn't say this, but," or "I'm worried about them, to be honest." Their tone is gentle. Their concern sounds real, but make no mistake, every word is a blade. Helping a two-faced person feel safe until it doesn't. You lend them your time, your secrets, your trust, and they use it all as currency to get ahead. To gain favor, to keep options open. You think you're building a bond, they think they're collecting tools, and by the time you realize it, the damage is already done. The worst part, they always play the victim. When confronted, they'll insist you misunderstood. They'll cry, they'll say they were just trying to help, and if you're someone with a soft heart, you'll start doubting yourself. Maybe you overreacted, maybe they didn't mean it that way. Maybe you should just let it go, but deep down, you know. Real friends don't make you question your instincts. Real trust doesn't come with confusion. If someone's words don't match their energy, if you feel exhausted, anxious, or uneasy around someone who's always smiling, pay attention. That's your body picking up what your mind hasn't named yet. You're allowed to walk away from people who act differently depending on who's watching. You're allowed to protect your peace from those who wrap manipulation in kindness. And you're allowed to stop giving to someone who weaponizes your closeness. Because a warm hand that holds a knife is still holding a knife. Don't wait until it cuts you to believe it's there. Number 8, the ungrateful footsteps that never look back. There's a unique kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from betrayal, it comes from being forgotten. From watching someone you poured into rise up and act like you were never there. You were their safe place, their lifeline, the person who showed up when no one else did. But now that they're stable, comfortable, successful, they don't call, they don't check in, they don't say thank you. It's not just that they moved on. It's that they moved away from you without a glance back. Ungrateful people often appear harmless. They don't scream. They don't lie, they just slowly erase you from the story of their success. They rewrite the past as if you were never a part of it. And when someone forgets who stood beside them in the dark, they will never truly value anyone in the light. Gratitude isn't about grand gestures. It's about remembering. It's about acknowledgement. It's about treating people like they mattered, even when the chapter has ended. Helping an ungrateful person is like writing your name in the sand before a tide. No matter how much of yourself you give, their memory won't hold it. And what's worse, when they need something again, they may return, not out of respect, but out of convenience. And if you say no, you're suddenly cold, selfish, not like you used to be. Because in their mind, your kindness wasn't a gift, it was a duty. But here's what they forget. Real relationships are built on mutual recognition, not on keeping score, but on keeping connection. If someone can't be bothered to remember how you held them up, they don't deserve the space to lean on you again. And if someone treats you like a step they climb to get where they are, it's okay to remove yourself from their staircase. Gratitude is the quiet thread that weaves people together. Without it, everything unravels. You start to feel like you're giving to a void. You begin questioning your own generosity. And if you're not careful, you'll close off, not just to them, but to everyone. That's the hidden cost of ungratefulness. It doesn't just take from you, it hardens you. So protect your heart from people who forget too easily. From those who don't return calls, don't send thanks, don't carry your name with honor when they speak of where they've been. You're allowed to expect appreciation. You're allowed to step back from those who never look back. Kindness should be met with kindness. And if someone's footsteps walk away without acknowledgement, let them. You are not here to chase gratitude. You're here to give with love and to protect that love from those who treat it like it's forgettable. Because it's not, and neither are you. Number 9, the opportunists, eyes that only see what you can offer. They show up at just the right moment, when you've landed the promotion, when your business starts thriving, when your name carries weight. Suddenly, they're warm, attentive. Full of compliments, they want to reconnect. It's been too long, they say. We should catch up. But behind the smiles and small talk, something feels calculated. Because it is. Opportunists don't see you, they see your value. What you can offer, who you know, what you can open for them. They're not looking for connection, they're looking for access. And once they get what they came for, whether it's your time, your network, your resources, they vanish. Or worse, they stay just close enough to benefit, but never close enough to support. You'll notice they're present during your highs, but eerily absent during your lows. That's how you know. Helping an opportunist doesn't feel wrong at first. They're often polite, even charismatic. They say thank you. They might do small favors in return. But the deeper you go, the more you realize it's a transaction, not a relationship. You give, they take. And if you ever stop giving, their warmth turns cold. You're no longer useful, so you're no longer important. The damage isn't always loud. It's in the little things. You start doubting whether someone likes you or just what you offer. You start second-guessing every kind gesture you make. You feel guarded, suspicious, drained. That's not paranoia. That's wisdom kicking in. Because people who only show up when there's something to gain leave behind an emotional residue, a sense that your worth is conditional. Opportunists are not inherently evil. They're just wired for advantage. They navigate life like a game, and people are just pieces on the board. But that doesn't mean you have to play along. You don't need to be someone's stepping stone. You don't have to audition for connection. Real relationships aren't built on usefulness. They're built on presence, through both storms and sunshine. So watch closely. Who texts you when you succeed but disappears when you grieve? Who flatters you in public but forgets to check in privately? Who only calls when they need a favor? Those are your answers. It's not cruel to set boundaries. It's responsible. Because your energy, your time, your story, these are not for rent. They are sacred. And they deserve to be shared with people who see you as a human being, not a vending machine. You are not here to be convenient. You are not a ladder. You are not an opportunity to be seized. You are a person with depth, value, and dignity. Don't let someone reduce you to a transaction. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because they suddenly remembered your name. Let them go. Keep your peace, and trust that the right people will show up, not for what you have, but for who you are. Number 10, the Fairweather Friends here for the rise, gone for the fall. They were there when everything was going well, when you were winning, when the spotlight was on you. They laughed the loudest at your jokes, celebrated your wins, posted about you on social media. They called you family, ride or die, day one. And in those moments it felt real, you trusted it. But then life shifted. You hit a low, financial, emotional, maybe even spiritual. You weren't as shiny anymore. And just like that, they disappeared. Fairweather friends don't walk away loudly. They fade, they grow distant, they stop checking in. Their texts slow down, their presence dries up. And what hurts the most isn't their absence. It's realizing they were only ever there for the version of you that was easy to love. The version that had something to offer. They were loyal to the high, not to the human behind it. These people are dangerous not because they're cruel, but because they're conditional. Their loyalty has fine print. Their friendship has an expiration date, usually tied to your usefulness, your image, your status. They don't want to weather storms with you. They want sunshine. And if the forecast turns gray, they'll be the first to seek shelter elsewhere. Helping Fairweather friends is heartbreaking. You give your time, your energy, your loyalty. You support them, root for them, stand by them. But when roles reverse, when you're the one in need, there's silence. No hand to hold, no shoulder to lean on, just the echo of memories you thought meant something. And here's the thing. It's not your fault. Being loyal is not a weakness. Believing in people is not naive. But once someone shows you they're only present when life is light, believe them. Because friendship, real friendship, is not about convenience. It's about consistency. It's about who shows up when it's hard, when it's messy, when there's nothing to gain. You don't need a crowd around you when you're shining. You need people who sit beside you in silence when you're breaking. You need those who stay, not because it's fun, but because it's you. Those are the ones who deserve your energy. The rest, let them go, not in anger, not in bitterness, just in peace. Stop chasing people who disappear when things get heavy. Stop giving your heart to those who only show up for the highlight reel. You deserve friendships that are rooted, not floating. Relationships that stand in every season, not just summer. And most of all, you deserve to know that when life gets quiet, messy, or uncertain, you are not alone. Fairweather friends don't need confrontation. They just need distance. Because when someone only loves the light, they were never meant to hold your darkness. Let them drift, and let yourself rise, stronger, wiser, and surrounded by the kind of love that doesn't leave when the clouds roll in. Final, there's a reason why helping others feels good. We're wired for empathy. Our biology rewards compassion. Our spirits crave connection. But even the most generous heart needs boundaries. Because kindness without discernment isn't virtue. It's vulnerability left exposed. And when that exposure is repeatedly met with blame, selfishness, manipulation, or indifference, it doesn't just hurt, it reshapes us. Every time we help the wrong person, something subtle shifts inside us. We become a little more hesitant, a little more guarded. We question our judgment. We wonder if being kind is worth it at all. And that is the quiet tragedy of misplaced generosity. It doesn't just cost us time or energy. It costs us trust, not only in others, but in ourselves. The truth is, not everyone wants to be helped. Not everyone is ready. Some are stuck in patterns they refuse to change. Others are using kindness as a currency, not a connection. And some simply do not recognize the weight of what you're offering. That doesn't make them evil, it makes them unready. And recognizing that is not judgment, it's wisdom. Setting boundaries isn't closing your heart, it's protecting the space where your real light lives. It's knowing that your energy is sacred, your time is precious, and your love is a gift, not an obligation. True generosity is rooted in awareness, in knowing who can receive what you give with honor and who will simply absorb it without ever seeing you. So ask yourself as you move forward, who adds to your peace, who drains your spirit, who claps for you in public and stays in the room when no one's watching. The answers won't always be easy, but they will be clear. You're not here to fix people, you're here to live truthfully, to give wisely, to love fully, but not blindly. Choose your kindness with intention. Let your heart stay open, but your eyes stay clear. Because when you give from a place of clarity, what you offer doesn't get lost. It lands where it's meant to bloom. And that, more than anything, is what turns compassion into power.